And he's just, you can see him now as Andrés Jimenez. And trying to figure this out. I'm trying to figure out the technology. Anyways, Andrés, I first met Andrés a couple of years ago when we did a presentation for some school kids in Ontario. And I was just immediately impressed by his warmth and his enthusiasm and passion for sharing nature, not just birds, but all kinds of nature with kids and people of all ages and all backgrounds. So it's very, very inspiring. Andrés is a biologist by training and is now working at Birds Canada, where he coordinates and manages the Urban Birds Program in Toronto. So Andrés has not only done work in Toronto, but has been very active in the birdability movement, which is making being accessible for people with physical disabilities. And he's also done a lot of work making birding accessible for people with visual problems who are sight impaired. So people of any kind of person who's interested in birds can enjoy and learn and be part of nature, which we all love. So very, very impressive. Andrés is expanded the Toronto Bird Festival and has reached out across Ontario to share his love of nature and his enthusiasm for different ways of birding, not just listing with the rest of us. I do want to add that I do know Andrés is a snake specialist. Many of us is like, wow, that sounds amazing. So maybe for another time we can hear more about snakes and snakes in Ontario. But tonight it's about birds. So I want to turn it on to Andrés, who's going to be talking about a different way of birding, which is mindfulness, using mindfulness when we're birding. So thank you, Andrés. I'm really looking forward to your talk.
Thank you, Lynn, for that introduction. We've had a lot of fun since we met, and we never thought that we were going to be working so close together after that great experience in which you birded through snow in May, pretty much similar to today, with a whole bunch of grumpy kids that then started loving it in your region. Can I share my screen now?
Yes, go ahead.
Awesome. Welcome everyone to Mindful Birding. I first want to start by saying that mindful birding is not a thing. My friend Leona, who is here today, asked me, oh, yeah, that's such a cool thing. I was like, it's not a thing. This is my experience. It does not exist. It's a narration of my own experience in nature, weaved with my learning and the wisdom shared with me by other people. And also, I am not criticizing anyone's birding experience, nor I want to imply this is better than other experiences. I love finding new species. I spent my winter trying to look for saw-whet owls, and I finally succeeded. And so this is just me telling my experiences. I'm going to be vulnerable with you guys today. I learned this because I am a survivor of sexual abuse. I'm also someone that has struggled with mental health. Pretty much as the rest of the world, I think that we have an epidemic of trauma in our society. And this is my small contribution towards addressing that. Please feel free to use the chat and the Q&A to ask as many questions as you want. So let's get to it. So we're going to be talking a bit about what is mindfulness and where does it come from? What does it mean? What does it mean to not live in the present and how we go into anxiety and depression? And then how is birding not mindful? If there's such a thing as mindful birding, what is not mindful birding? And then what are the things that get in the way of being in the present? And then we're going to talk about tips and tricks on how to get in a mindful position. So mindfulness, it is a theoretical research branch of psychology, and it's a practice usually referred to as mindfulness-based stress reduction. And it was created in 1979 by John Kabat-Zinn, who funded a mindfulness-based stress reduction program at the University of Massachusetts to treat the chronically ill. The program sparked the application of mindfulness ideas and practice in medicine for the treatment of a variety of conditions in both the people that were healthy and those that were not as healthy. It's been really useful for treating veterans after wars, and it has been used to many other practices in schools, prisons, hospitals. It can be employed through the day to deal with stressful situations and to reduce emotional reactivity, but it's not only used when you're feeling stressed. If you practice it a lot, then it becomes natural to you. And mindfulness has tools, and it's a practice that can help us work with family, relationship, health, and other areas of stress or difficult emotions. And a good definition by Kabat-Zinn from 2005 is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose. Not just paying attention, but paying attention on purpose in the present moment. But there's a key here, non-judgmentally. I was telling Lynn today that when I listen to the radio and I hear the weather commentators say, well, today we have bad weather, or today is a gorgeous day, or today we have very good weather. The weather is weather. It's not good or bad. And maybe it's because I'm tropical people coming from Costa Rica, in which I decided I could not see the snow as bad because I would never go out, that I started realizing that there is this judgment we give to the weather. And so being present in the weather means not judging it and letting it unfold in the experience moment by moment. And this is a very good definition by the creator of mindfulness-based meditation. And this is my pet parrot at the time in Costa Rica, a yellow-naped parrot. I had a lot of pet parrots. It's no good. No one should have wild animals, but I was a kid. Now, mindfulness-based stress reduction works. For example, in the treatment of psoriasis disease, which is a skin condition produced by stress, it showed that people that were meditating healed 4 times faster than the non-meditators. It has also showed great improvements in mood, concentration, and depression in veterans where no other treatment has worked. And then meditators have displayed a rise in antibody titers contrary to non-meditators. This is only a sample of 3 studies that have been done, but there are many other studies that have been done in mindfulness-based stress reduction. Mindfulness is compassionate. Why is it compassionate? The mindful-based stress reduction technique comes from Asian disciplines like Buddhism. And in Asian languages, the word for mind, as in mindful, the word for mind is also used for heart. And in some cases, like in Japanese, is used for mind, heart, and spirit as an undividable essence. And so kokoro is mind, heart, and spirit. And so this means that mindfulness includes an affectionate, compassionate quality within the attending, a sense of open-hearted, friendly presence and interest. And this is the thing I want to bring into birding. The nature of a friendly presence regards for us not to do extractionist observations. Let us remember that the way many of us learn birding comes from Western science that came from the colony and from Europeans. And this type of science, which with birds originally means shooting at them, tends to be extractionist. It tends to have a very clear goal. It tends to try to be an unbiased and objective observer, which in many cases is completely impossible because we have emotions towards the creatures that we're watching. But besides that, when you take a photo and you're not aware of what you're producing to that owl, you're extracting something at the expense of the owl. It might not be extracting feathers and killing it, but it's still an extraction of the energy it requires while it's sleeping. We are also trying to extract lists. We're trying to extract new species. We're using fossil fuels to take our car and go see a bird. So the way we've learned birding comes from a very specific worldview that it's extractivist on its nature. And so bringing compassion towards the understanding of our presence mindfully can make a big difference on how much we get out of birding. With that said, let us always remember that we have mind, heart, and body present at all times. Even though we've told that we have to focus in our mind, we need to pay attention to the 3 of them. And this right here is my friend the Musurana. This is a Clelia. It's a snake that eats other venomous snakes. And this I caught in Corcovado National Park. And I chose to put this photo here because before I touched this snake, before I caught it, everyone had said that Musuranas were incredibly aggressive, that they would whip you and that they would chase you. And look at this. Did that snake look aggressive? And something that working with snakes teaches you is that there is a way for them to feel your intention when you connect with them. And there's a way for them to feel that you're not a threat for the snake. In this case, I'm just a log. I'm just a substrate. And in many cases, snakes won't bite the log they're on. And so it can help you to get into a compassionate position instead of thinking it's the killer that is going to bite me, right? What does it mean to live in the present? This is a very good, there's a publication from Borkovec. He's also a psychiatrist and psychologist, and this publication is from 2003, and he has a very good explanation of what it means to live in the present. And he says that we spend most of our time living in an illusion, the illusion of the experiences of the past, in which our mind is remembering all the things that have happened. Either if I have trauma, this is especially bad for people with trauma, because their brain is caught in the trauma that happened when they were children, and they're making the decisions of their environment based on that trauma. So if I was raped on a dark forest, when I go into the dark forest, my mind is going to tell me that it's a very dangerous location. And so my mind is caught in the past. But then there's also the future, which is anticipation. Am I going to have a job in 2 months? Is my family going to be okay when I return home? Is my car going to have a problem when I'm in Sault Ste. Marie and I'm in front of a bear, and is it going to start? So that anticipation generates fear to the future, which we know as anxiety. And so the future generates anxiety because we're trying to create hundreds of scenarios to protect ourselves from the possible bad illusions that we're creating in our mind. And then our memories that keep us locked in the past also create an illusion. And so the events conjured up by my worrisome thinking exist only in my mind, and they refer to things in a possible but currently non-existent future, and deal with feared events that turn out to be very unlikely to happen anyway. And we've been living so much of that during COVID. And so is the toilet paper going to run out? So I just got to go and buy everything I can. It's an scenario that has not happened, it's unlikely to happen, and it's still making me constantly create anxious feelings. And it's making me devote so much time and attentional resources to these illusionary mental creations that I'm not attending to the real world that does exist in front of me. And that's why I think mindfulness-based activities are quite important for what we're living right now. What does it mean not to live in the present? And I would like to introduce you to my friend, the royal flycatcher, Onychorhynchus coronatus, Du in Brivri. We are not in the present when we are holding off to pleasant emotions for as long as we can to try to avoid unpleasant emotions. That means we're trying to constantly remember things that made us happy in the past, or sometimes we're locked into the trauma of the past. We're also caught in unreal events, they mute the present because we are thinking on future panoramas. And that mutes our experience in the present, that mutes our learning and experience. And that is where we get our growth. This is once again from Borkovec, 2003, and I think it's a great publication to put in a very psychological understanding of what anxiety and depression can do to our experience in the present and how it cripples us from getting the information we require to grow. And that is why I want to show you this postcard that was sent to me by Master Uwe. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it's called The Present. This is from one of my favorite movies ever, Kung Fu Panda. It has so much great philosophy, this film. I would recommend you see it again. And Master Uwe is very wise when he says that the present is a gift. I'm going to tell you why. How is it that we live in the present? Living in the present, once again, according to Borkoweb, living in the present is an ongoing moment-to-moment information processing. We take new information. I am in a webinar. I'm looking at the camera. I'm talking to people, and those people are responding to me on the chat. But it only happens when we practice and when we break very rooted behavioral patterns. A lot of what we've been taught keeps us locked in the past or in the future, because it's really important if you buy that insurance, or it's really important for the bank of if you work in that pension. And I'm not saying those things are not important. I'm saying that we're constantly locked into thinking about them, and hence taking away our experience in the present. And according to Borkoweb, being in the present is being like children. Children have emotional reactions to the present environment because probably they don't have a mortgage to pay. And their behavior changes with new environmental demands, constantly perceiving and processing new environmental information. I like to think of ducks, and that's why I brought you my very good friends, the hooded merganser, which is one of my favorite ducks. I flipped when I saw one of these. Have you seen ducks behaving in the pond? New male comes in, they have a fight, male goes out, and then the duck is suddenly out of it. It's just relaxed again, like if it didn't have a fight to the death with the other male. And it's like, hey, Bobby, oh yeah, you're not in my territory. Oh, fantastic. Hi. And the duck fights, and then it becomes a duck again. And Bobby, he thinks I'm a wuss because I'm not fighting him. He better not look at Josephine. He better not look at, is he looking at Josephine? Yeah, Bobby is just, he should know that I'm a big male. That's what a human would do that is locked in the past experience with the duck and the future experience. And we should be like ducks. And every time you see ducks, please remember me and try to be like a duck. Anxiety fades because there is no future. If we have no future scenarios that are unreal, because in the majority of cases they're unreal, then anxiety wouldn't exist. Depression would fade if there is no past, because depression comes a lot from the past scenarios, the things that traumatized us, the things that hurt us when we were children. And if depression and anxiety are gone, we have the core emotions left. We have the fear, we have the joy, we have the anger, we have the surprise. That is what is left once we are not locked in the past or in the future. But how is birding not mindful? In so many cases, our body is there, but our mind is not there. And I'm going to paraphrase the authors I've been quoting. I'm going to paraphrase Kabat-Zinn and Borkoweb. Harmful birding, and I'm going to put a quote because, I've been told birding is awesome for your health, and it is. And every type of birding is going to be better than sitting in the couch and watching TV. And so I'm just going to quote it there because I didn't have a better word. Harmful birding puts us in a constant anticipatory response to a future or past events, the things we saw or the things we desperately want to see. And so it is possible for anxiety to exist. It is impossible for anxiety to exist in the present. This is something I want you to remember and to constantly think about. If we are living in the present, we're not going to be anxious, and our very precious experience with birds is going to be even more precious. And so I'm going to do something. I'm going to invite you to my mind, and probably your mind is not like mine, and I hope it isn't, but maybe someone you know has a mind like mine, and I hope this can help you understand them better. Am I going to see that cerulean? But damn it, will my daughter get tired or walk fast enough? I might not reach the tip of the spit where the good things are. Oh, that's what the red-headed woodpecker is. And I want you to know that in my head right now is the anxiety about the birding and the experience in the field, which at some point when I was young was really, really bad and was taking away the precious gift of being in nature. We all have anxiety about our parents with cancer, our jobs and our livelihoods. This is a type of anxiety that happens as we do our activity. I only have 2 hours for this place. Will it be enough? I might never, ever, ever be back in Sault Ste. Marie. Wait, what if I'm not good enough to spot it? I wish I was like Kelly. She's got the best eyes. If I don't find enough animals, will my friends get bored? They decided to come with me. Will they get bored in this trail? It's a lot of mosquitoes. Oh God, they will think I'm a crappy birder if I can't identify that female. I will never find a rarity. I will never do. I wish I knew all the sounds. I bet I would find more things if I knew all the sounds, if I would have started birding earlier. Will my wife be annoyed if I am 1 hour late? I really want to see this bird. I need to find as many things as I possibly can. Why is the Toronto Bird Celebration during the spring? I don't have time to come birding again. And that is what it can happen. When your sense of purpose and success is kidnapped by the one rarity dropping by, or the huge number of birds you need to find, the impression you want to portray, the little amount of time you have for that location, and all the things that you will miss out. That is why MOFO exists, right? The fear of missing out. And this is how your brain could be if you're mindfully birding. Should be blank, but I'm not Buddha. So every time I try, this is the most I can do. The wind feels cool. Is that a smell of wet soil? Things went quiet. I wonder why. My neck feels finally loose and relaxed. Oof, this is nice, even though I'm going to get a warbler next soon. Wow, that nuthatch is going down a tree head first. Do you imagine how strong you gotta be to do that? And so this is what your brain could be if you're present in the moment with entire non-judgmental and compassionate awareness. And so for that, I want to say what mindful birding is for me. It's letting go momentarily and then trying for that to grow. Maybe 1 minute that then transform into 5 or 10. And letting go momentarily of expectations, goals, and aspirations. We have enough of that with every single aspect of our life, our marriage, our work, our relationships. And so we pay attention to the external and internal landscape. When we're mindful, it's not only about seeing this beautiful place in Roca Bruja in Costa Rica, but being attentive to your inner landscape, to the emotions and body sensations that are happening as you witness these things. And I can assure you, if you're attentive to your body while you do these amazing things, you're going to get a lot more out of it. It requires a lot of constant practice to break habitual behaviors. And then it requires for you to be present and compassionate by considering animals and other people around you. This is very important. And I'm going to explain how with a set of tips. The first tip, which is totally black, it's assume nothing. Assumptions are as useful as plastic bags. They save us some trouble for a couple of minutes, but they pollute for years to come. They allow our minds to make easier decisions. And that is very useful. That's why we use them. And the problem is that you're not wondering and discovering when you assume. You are only recapitulating your biases, the things that you assume. And so do not make assumptions, particularly judgmental about yourself or birds. Because if you assume something about birds, and this is something that happened to me with a toad, I assumed that the toad I was looking was a species that was gone for 20 years, thought to be extinct. I assumed that it was always on the splash next to the river. And it turns out that this population I was looking for a year, the toads were living 5 meters up the trees. And so when you assume, you can miss out on new behavior and on new things if you think that you know what that bird is doing. So try to avoid, that bird is so boring. Is that just a house sparrow? Oh, yeah, I saw nothing. Trail was boring. Nothing was there. Nope, no good birds today. Also avoid the arrogance of expertise. If someone asks you, hey, did you see any water birds? And you reply, oh no, water birds don't stop here. They just keep on flying. They're not asking you if water birds stopped. They're just asking if you've seen them. And so avoid the arrogance of experience. Try not to explain birds to people that have not asked, because you're going to save yourself negative emotions, and you're going to save them that experience as well. And also try to avoid, you don't look like a bird, or do you? What are you doing here, mate? Because that's never going to help anyone. Tip number 2, we've talked about this, be compassionate. Remember Kokoro? Mindfulness requires cognition and emotions. It requires mind and heart. Be sure to take a compassionate stance toward birds, people, and yourself. So many times we can be compassionate to other people, but we can never be compassionate to ourselves. And so amidst a current of negative thinking, oh, I misidentified that bird. Oh, it's a poor birding day. Save yourself the punishment. It's not because you're bad at it. It's not because you've done something wrong. It will keep you away from the joy of being where you are if you punish yourself and if you're not compassionate to yourself. And then if you see a bird that is waking up and an owl and it's getting annoyed at you, be compassionate toward that owl. Pick up a piece of litter in a critical environment and try to be compassionate and reciprocate the gifts that nature and birds are giving you. And it's going to go a long way. Tip number 3, have an indestructible sense of wonder. And this is something that comes from Rachel Carson in Silent Spring. She wishes that she could give every kid an indestructible sense of wonder. Curiosity towards the place you are, the new and the old sounds, the birds and all the creatures. Curious, non-judgmental wonder allows us to be in the present at all times because you're curious about what is happening. And this is why birds are so great, because they move so much, they have so many different colors, that for you to be able to engage with them, you need to be paying too much attention with a lot of curiosity. And so be sure to double it down. And also be curious towards other people. Don't judge them. Try to discover what they want to share with you. And curiosity will always be better than judgment. And then be curious about yourself. Sometimes you're looking at a bird and you're feeling something in your chest. It feels tight, and you're out in the woods, and you should be very relaxed. This is the place you go to relax. So ask yourself, what is this feeling? But don't punish yourself for that feeling. Be curious about it. Where does it come from? Why do I think this place is boring? Think about those things with curiosity. Now, tip number 4. When in a group, don't shout the bird ID. Let people discover the bird. Let them know what you noted. This is an exercise that helps you learn about your own feelings. Instead of saying immediately this is anger, which is a good thing you get too, but start noticing what is coming out. Is this anger? Is this guilt? What is this thing that I'm feeling? Did I notice this neck ache? And do the same with birds. Let people know the colors of what you see and the things that capture your interest. You might discover that the anxiety and competition on birding are gone if you're not just shouting out the idea and not trying to be the first one that discovered the very rare bird. If they ask for an ID, then share it with joy, and you'll see the spark that you generate on them because you gave them the gift of curiosity. You allowed them to discover something that they were engaged with. Tip number 5, and we have only 3 more slides to go. I'd like to introduce you to my very good friend, the Masasaga Rato. Try to sit or walk for a short period of time, letting go of the search. I used to search so much in Costa Rica. I searched for snakes for an entire week, feeling miserable for that whole week because I didn't see a single snake. And so let go of the search, and it will allow you to move your focus from searching to enjoying, because searching can take up all the time and energy that is left for finding. So when you stop searching, even for a minute, you will start finding things. Tip number 6, keep scanning your body. And I cannot express how much this is important. See the new emotions that arise, the new uncomfortable sensations, as if they were very good friends you say hello to. The comfortable ones, the tight chest or the relaxed hands when they pick up the binoculars. Feel everything inside, from the sensation of the wind to the emotions or a familiar smell. And that will allow you to be present in your body at all times. And that will allow you to be not only present in your body, but also to inhabit the landscape. Don't let your sense of purpose to be kidnapped from one creature that is so uncertain to find. Take what the land gives you. This can be an analogy for our own emotions. We sometimes want only the ones that we think are positive. When we can learn to engage with all of them, we even enjoy to experience these emotions that we think are bad, like the weather. Tip number 8, and this is the most important, number 8, abandon progress. To be mindful is to accept the present and to stop wanting to find a better version of birding, a better version of the birds, or a better version of yourself. Stop wanting for you to see better, or for you to listen better, or for you to have eyes that see more contrast, or to know more songs, or to tell things apart better. There is no expectation, goal, or aspiration. You're giving yourself the gift of being in the forest, enjoying doing the thing you love the most. Why does there have to be a better birder that you're hoping will arise a day after you train a little bit more doing birding? And so the purpose is for you to be in that place you chose to be, with whom you chose to be, and the birds you chose to connect with. So let go of the idea of progress. This is an idea that has been planting in our heads. So we can constantly be trying to improve ourselves, waiting to see how better we can get. Now, in my final slide, I would like to suggest you 3 techniques that are very useful. The first one is noting. Sometimes when you try to be in the forest, just relaxing and not really focus on the birds or on anything else, many ideas start happening and feelings. Instead of fighting them, try to discover them with curiosity and just note them. This is a thought, this is a memory, and this is a feeling. And then note whatever arises afterwards, same as you would note the birds. The second technique is a body scan, and this is the core, or one of the cores of mindfulness meditation. And for expectation's sake, I'm not a mindfulness coach. This is what I've learned from my own practice. A body scan is when you try to feel the top of your head and start going down, trying to feel your proprioception, your sense of your body. You know where your hand is, right? If you close your hands, that's your proprioception. That's another sense we have. And so you try to feel how your hand is feeling or how your neck is feeling. And so you try to feel what is tense, what is relaxed, what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And you do this while you're birding. And you will discover so much about yourself and even how you react to certain birds. How does that rush feel in your body? You will enjoy it 3 times more. And then something I call the thought flyby. When you are coming out of work and you're very stressed, but you decide to go birding for relaxing and reducing your stress, and you keep on getting the thoughts from the office and the conversation you have with your partner, let them fly by as you would do with birds. Oh, hello, goodbye. Instead of trying to fight it, even the tough emotions, instead of trying to fight them and using all that energy to fight them, let them fly by. And then welcome the next thought and the next emotion, and then let it fly by, as you would do with birds. Always try to focus on your breath and let the thoughts fly by. And there will be something to pay attention outside of your head eventually, and you will be fully engaged with birds. And you will realize that the more you practice, the better you get at it. Finally, let's connect. On Instagram, you can find me as Andrés Himo, Happiest Nature and Birds Connection. Twitter, I'm Andrés Himo, and then I have a couple of online courses on Udemy for beginners. One is called The Beginner's Guide to Bird Watching, Finding Birds and Happiness. And the second one is called At Home with Birds. One final thought. Birds are mindfulness at its best. They show us the progression of life. You get to see them when they're chicks. You get to see them when they die. You get to see them when they're singing. You get to see them when they're molting. You literally see or feel life progress. They provide a stable frame of mind amidst all the uncertainty that we're living. There's that one cardinal that will sing in the same perch at the same time of day. They demand us to be absolutely present and concentrated, to be able to identify them or to discover something new about them. You don't really have a lot of time to be in the past or in the future or in bad memories. They behave with constant purposeful meaning. And this is something I've seen different from frogs and snakes. Sometimes a snake just sits for a week in the same spot, but everything a bird does is always so purposeful. It always has such an intention, and you always go like, oh yeah, it's eating. Yeah, no, it's checking on that thing and it's gonna hunt it. So it's always so purposeful. You need to be mindful of time and place. You need to be mindful of the seasons. You need to be mindful of how early or how late it is, if the weather is warm or cold. And so you really need to be mindful of the place to find them and the time of the year to find them, or the time of day. And most important, they co-occupy our space. They are neighbors. They have houses in our yards, and we get to see them and feel them as friends. And so I don't think there's any more mindful than that. With that said, I'm done. I'm hoping that this somewhat reflect your experiences and that it's going to help you.
Andrés, that was, I don't have words. I think what you just said and what you shared with us is so brave, because it isn't the common narrative of what birders talk about. I think that your insights are incredibly important and valuable for people beyond birding, for people who have mental health issues, really for every human being. I mean, we come from nature, we're part of nature. And to interpret for me, when I'm happiest and feel most at peace, is when the words disappear and I'm just part of nature, which is our natural state. So I just want to thank you for this. I think it's very important what you're saying, and I think it will resonate with lots of people. So
this was fully experimental. It's the first time I do something like this. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Well, I know so I'm, for people who don't know me, I should have introduced myself, but I'm president of OFO, and we just put out a survey on equity, diversity, and inclusion to get people's opinions. And I have heard from many people about how they feel intimidated and less than, diminished, because they're not a competitive or experienced birder. And so I think a different approach is, if people are enjoying being competitive, like you're saying, and enjoying,
that's okay.
Bird, that's fine. That's theirs, but it isn't the only experience of birding, and it's not the only valid experience. So, so thank you. I am going to, we do have questions and comments that are very profound. So first of all, how do you apply learning throughout your life, which can involve some uncomfortable past experiences or a potentially messy future, if you try and be in the present?
I would say that I'm still trying to answer that question myself. We all have a messy future. That's literally the definition of the universe, entropy. And every single aspect of the future you can imagine or create, there's some that are going to be more likely than others, but each of them is going to be completely fake. When I planned the Toronto Bird Celebration 2 years ago, I planned 40 events that were going to happen live with people on Sam Smith Park and Tommy Thompson. And a week later, I was telling donors, hey, sorry, I didn't anticipate a pandemic. And I could have never imagined that as a scenario, even though I planned for all the rest of the baddest scenarios. And I spent tons of hours and energy preparing for all the baddest scenarios there. And it didn't happen, and all that energy was wasted. So I would say that every single possible future we tend to imagine is an illusion and a fabrication. Past emotions, I think it's very important to be grounded to the present, that help us remember that we are safe, that we're not in our past, that we need to re-educate ourselves right now, so we can allow ourselves not to be caught by what we think is going to happen now from what happened in the past. Because it's going to stop us from learning, because we keep on thinking that what happened in the past is going to repeat itself. And that's literally the definition of trauma. Our brain is locked in a defensive position, and we keep on anticipating pain and suffering that we lived. And that is why it's so hard to break from it, because our brain chemically is locked in trauma. So much that we've done studies that trauma passes to, in mice, we've put them in traumatic situations, and the trauma modified the mitochondria of the babies of the mice that experience the trauma. So it can affect us genetically, the trauma from our parents. And so it's important to try to be locked in the present that is safe.
Thank you.
And once again, I'm not a psychologist. This is just from what I've learned and from my own experiences.
So somebody else writes, how do you deal with sudden knowledge that a 13-year-old that you're birding with has been seeing 1,000 birds, whereas this person is 33 and is only seeing, that's the wrong word, seeing 100.
I'm absolutely training my 5-year-old to find me all the lifers and all the snakes and things I want to see, especially now she's closer to the ground. So she's finding more snakes than I am. And so being mindful about that means accepting that information that is coming. Is this kid is so good, I'm learning, and let's enjoy it together. And so it's just taking that information every single time and using it, and that's it.
Yeah, I would agree. I have noticed as an older person that, well, even when I was younger, I did not have good eyes. I just didn't see stuff. It's just the way I am. It's like some people are athletes, some people aren't. But wherever we are is where we are. And there's always somebody, quote, better. There's always somebody not where, and birding is, and learning about nature is a process. And it's just, we're always somewhere on that road and we're never at the end of it.
And it's good enough. Like the experience is not how many birds you've seen, but how many birds you're seeing at the time. It's absolutely irrelevant how many birds you've seen. It's that it's in the past once again. And holding to all those birds you saw keeps you in the past. I'm going to give you a story that Jerry, a blind birder since birth, gave us yesterday. He said, it used to hurt a lot when people tell me that, why would I do birding when I couldn't see the beauty of birds? And I would tell them that I was going to enjoy my life with every single one of my senses. And that I was just going to keep on enjoying birds, even if I could only hear them. That's it.
Beautiful. So I'm going to, I'm going to go to the chat now. We've had lots of comments. Sorry. Many thank yous for both the presentations. Andrés, thank you for your vulnerability. And I would agree. I'd like to talk about this. There's a comment about the competitive element of birthing and the idea of a big sit or big ear makes this commenter uncomfortable. How would you respond to that, Andrés?
I would respond that we do our thing. It's like if Lynn wants to go and see 1,000 species in one day and I can see one of them with her, that's fantastic. You know, it's being present is being present within you. It doesn't matter if other people are competing or not. It's how you do what you need to do for yourself. And there are athletes that compete and get to the Olympics, and that's something they want to do and they enjoy it. So let them do it and you do what you need to do. I would say that there's space for everything. Sometimes when we're caught in the competition that was taught to us, you are missing out on creating an impact in the world around you. You're trampling places, you're doing things that could be harming whatever brings you joy because you might not be mindful. I've been to so many beautiful landscapes I showed you, and I was trying so badly to find a lot of species for tourists I was taking in, or for friends that we were looking for a rare snake. And I see the pictures now, and I realize I wasn't present on those landscapes, and they look alien to me. I don't know if this has happened to any of you, but I see them, I was like, wow, I was there, really? And it is up until now, in the last 5 years, when I started trying to see the world a bit different, in which I started feeling that I was present in the places, recognized the smells, understood the season, how the sun was moving, and it allowed me to get more out of nature and to read it better. So there's pros and cons to everything, and you gain and lose. If you're mindfully birding, you might not see as many species as you want to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a loss as well. That's some sort of loss.
So thank you. I think, Andres, you started a really important discussion. I hope we can have other OFO sessions about this topic, about different ways of experiencing and enjoying nature and the connection between what we do and mental health, although I don't know whether that's the only dimension, but just maybe reintegrating ourselves with nature.